Hi, everyone. Good evening to all of you. Another day, another podcast from Blue Dots Consultancy Services. So I'm delighted to conduct this podcast today. We received quite a bit of healthy feedback. And I use the word healthy because sometimes the feedbacks can be a little bit nasty also. But received a very healthy feedback on the first episode that we conducted on the documentation, blueprint, tool selection, workflow automation, and developer-ready solutions with Balaji Jayaraman, wherein we discussed quite a few things. We discussed about the selection of vendors, the automation solution. Bala also discussed quite a few use cases of AI, and we discuss a lot of things. So if you have not got a chance to watch the first episode, I will put a link in the description and you can go ahead and watch the first episode for that. And I hope to have another wonderful session with Bala today. For those of you who are new to the podcast or new to the episode, um, 7th of August today evening, and recording it from Bangalore. It's already 9 on a Friday evening, and delighted to have Bala with us. Balaji Jayaraman is a lead technical writer and documentation consultant with expertise in creating user guides, API documentation, release notes, administrator guide for complex software products. Beyond technical writing, Balaji helps organizations design scalable documentation strategies by selecting the right tools, workflow, and content management practices, which helps uh, improves collaboration, efficiency, and the overall user experience. Bala is very much active on LinkedIn. He also is a regular attendee, presents a lot of topics on various conferences. So please go and add him on LinkedIn. His URL is given here. LinkedIn profile is given here. Please do that. And so we'll start off the second episode today. And I put in a couple of points. Not, I mean, we don't need to go it in the same order or the same fashion. As you know that I'm keeping the discussion very informal. So, but we are going to talk today on the DocsAsCode approach, which is very popular and something that I see a lot of technical writers have started using it. And we're going to talk about DocsAsCode approach. We are also going to talk about VibeCoding, which has become very popular. Again, we are going back to AI, and we're going to talk about VibeCoding. For those of you who are very new to it, you may find it also a lot of discussion points and what is it we're going to talk about. Then we're going to pitch in and talk a little bit on the lateral skills for technical writers. Both of us have been technical writers for a very long period of time. I may have become an entrepreneur for a very period of time, but I still am a tech writer. I conduct tech writing programs. I have an organization which deploys technical writers to various clients in our consultations mode and all that stuff. And so we're going to talk about that. Plus, there are a few questions and certain more things that Bala and I may like to discuss or address. So stick with us, and we hope to bring you a meaningful episode, something that you will truly enjoy. So with that, let's start off the podcast, and I'm just gonna go back to Bala right now again. Hi, Bala, how are you doing?
Yeah, Raj. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, Bala. Thank you so much for again giving me a time. And it's the second episode. I believe the first episode was received quite, and thank you for sharing it with your community members and all that stuff. So let's start
Yeah.
off the podcast today, Bala, with Docs's code approach. If you could start off, if you could lay the foundation of Docs's code, what is it? And then basically tell us um, for the audience generally that what is Docs's code? Where does it start? How does technical writers and how do you implement it?
Yeah, sure. So DocsAsCode, as the name suggests, we write the documents in the same way as we write code. So when we talk about code, we do in any of our editors such as IDE or Visual Studio Code or Sublime Text or any kind of editors to write the code, at least just for HTML or a JavaScript. We take those code and then we write what has to be implemented. And at the end, we try to save that file as one of the serving files in the website. So it had a lot of lot of steps involved. Like when we do coding, it usually goes through the lot of dependencies it has to go through to install it, and then it takes the latest code what we have written, and then it also writes the test cases, and then it deploys that to a server. So there are a lot of intermediate steps involved in it, right from the editor to the final web page or the help where the customer consumes. So when we talk about docs as code approach earlier, we try to write the documentation in the form of static a desktop tool or any other web tool where the vendor itself either they provide the output in the form of PDF or any form of a static HTML files. So what we do is once we generate the build, we capture them and then put it in the web server so that we enable the customers to view from the web server. So there were a lot of steps involved in it, and it's a step-by-step approach where you need to go through, and it doesn't have a lot of customization to do in between. So Docker code approach is where you just start with a simple format, something like a Markdown format. You develop the documentation there, and you can choose any one of the framework, any some of the frameworks such as Phoenix and MKDoc or some other open source available documentation framework where you have the structure in place, and it also suggests where to add those files in detail. So if we have a framework which is already in place and which is already adopted by a lot of different documentation communities, what we try to do is we just add our content specific to our product, and then we follow the procedure given for the framework. So usually it would be like we host all these files in a repository, something like a GitLab or GitHub. We try to track the changes. Suppose a lot of different writers working on the documentation a product, then everybody can contribute to the particular repository and they can make the changes in the Markdown or any file format files. So once they complete all the documentation, we try to commit and make those changes uploaded to the repository. So that is the same way as we do in the code aspect. So after they complete the work, they push that code to a repository. We also push our editor files to the repository. So once it is pushed to the repository, all the build and the final output is delivered automatically. So there are certain vendors who help us to do that part, where we connect our repository link to the software or a configuration webhook, where it constantly it watches our repository. Say whenever I commit and push a particular change in my repository, these vendors or the software, it look for what are the new changes updated, and it triggers the build automatically. So the moment you push something like fixing a typo or just changing some of the content in the existing site, the build it gets triggered automatically and pushes those HTML files automatically to the web server you already configured. So in that way, you reduce the lot of time involved in saving the file and then using another tool to build the HTML files and then move those HTML files to a web server. So all these intermediate steps are completely removed in this step. You would be concentrating more on developing content for the users in your favorite web editor or something like the RST editor or any Markdown editor, and try to push those files to a repository. And you don't have a lot of need to worry about how this particular documentation goes to the end user. So in that way, we have a clear picture about what are the things we document and how it is consumed by the end users. So that's
Right.
the yeah.
Right. So in a snapshot or in a nutshell, we have a Markdown editor. Let's say, for example, it could be a visual, what is it? Visual VS Code for that,
So,
or let's say Dillinger or Notepad++ for that matter. Then once you author the content for technical writers, um, so when they author the content, which is again the Markdown syntax, because
yes.
it cannot directly render I mean, some of them has a preview option available. But let us
Yeah.
say that we are using an open source kind of a thing, a free open source. Most of us, when we want to implement that, we need to show the organization what it can do. Now, assuming that we are using a Notepad Plus or something like that, then you
Yeah.
need a Markdown processor. You need a Markdown processor. So let's say we talk about, you spoke about repository. So we're
Yeah.
talking about Git and GitHub, let's say, for that matter. So we create a repository on GitHub, or in Git for that matter. Now the files are actually just for the end user. We assume that we create a repository on GitHub. We clone the repository on Git, and then we sort of like make the changes onto our local system. We add those changes, we commit, and we push it to the GitHub, let's say for that matter.
Yes.
Now, and then you are telling that we have those servers that are available, which will take the output and publish it to the website,
Yes.
Docusaurus or
Mm.
MKDocs and all that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Bala, this takes care the involvement of technical writers. Is it only the involvement of technical writers? How much of that are the technical people in the engineering department or the development department, the implementation team department, who are also going to be involved in in this entire process? Who else are going to be involved?
So it will be most probably just the technical writers team. So it should be anybody can create a repository within the organization. So once they have the code repository access to technical writers, they can create a repository. And there are certain vendors like Read the Docs where they provide a system where we log in and we connect our GitHub repository to the Read the Docs account. So it tried to it's just a webhook. It tried to see the changes or track within the Git repository. And if the changes are there, it will try to take that files and then publish that to the end user. So, to just simplify that, you can assume the repository or something like a shared Google Drive.
Hmm.
And if you try to upload some of the photos or videos to some of your friends, you can add it there. And there will be some servers which also has access to the particular drive folder, and it publishes that into a viewable gallery in some form of website to the end users. So your role just ends in uploading the images and videos. In the same way, in the repository, you add those markdown files with your content, and the read the docs or the other vendor, which takes care of your publishing. So it's a one-time effort. You need to configure how you do that connection between your repository and the read the docs uh, vendor portal. And if you have a lot of versions, you define that as well. So
Hmm.
you can manage different versions and you can manage different translations as well. Or the different type of languages supported for a particular version. So you can do all those settings in that vendor portal. And since you have the repository in control, the source files is within your org. So you're not giving that to any third-party vendor, or it's not locked to one particular format. So it be either saved in Markdown file or any other openly available formats. That doesn't matter. But you have the control of your source files, all the images and all the proprietary things you have within your repository. And the output part is controlled by the third-party vendor. So where they may have some options like if I need to publish the site to some of the customers, we can try to have some secure links to them, or we can password protect the specific version for some of the beta customers. So all these specific settings, we can do that. And since it is some form of environment, um, like a framework is added by the third-party vendor, you also have those add-ons and other specific features given by the community. Like if I need to add certain tables in different way, and if my native Markdown or RST files doesn't support it, so those add-ons will help us to render those out. And in addition to that, we also have some customization, like we can add the HTML code snippets as well. So whenever we need to add certain things within our documentation site, it not just we need to have the Markdown file. In addition to that, we can also have HTML code snippets as well, so that we can customize to see how the look and feel of it. And sometimes we can modify the functionalities using JavaScript as well. So that becomes a powerful control for the documentation team, where they define the output, they define what kind of files which I'm going to store, and at the same time, we own the content. It's not locked in one of the vendors, and it's available as a open source. So you will cut a lot of licensing cost. And one biggest advantage I see is like if your audience gets changed and if you need to move those files to a different framework, you can do that simply, because it again it also refers to one particular repository where it displays the output format. So your core files lies in your repository, and the front end, all the fancy stuff, it gets changed. So that would be easy for the organization to decide later as well. So in that way, you have a lot of advantages of using an open source tool, something like Read the Docs and the other open formats available, rather than we stick to one particular vendor where we don't have full control on how it gets managed.
Excellent. We hear a lot about Docusaurus. Could you shed some light on that about Docusaurus? If you
Yeah.
can just tell us, yeah.
Yeah. So DocsAsCode is one of the documentation framework by Meta. They used it and it made it as an open source. So it's available now and it's very active, because whenever we have a lot of updates, the documentation, the framework updates, like how the look and feel of the site should look like, and how they manage the versions and what are the new features we have within the documentation platform. We have those things in DocsAsCode. It's also, we have a lot of different tools available, but DocsAsCode is one particularly famous because it's given by Meta and it's actively maintained as well. So we have a lot of add-ons and um, a lot of different formats we can render using DocsAsCode. And at the same time, you just render those files in Markdown files or the DocsAsCode format files, which helps to uh, manage the content within your repository. So that's one option, but we have a lot of other options as well,
Excellent.
like MKDocs, MDocs, and Antora. A lot of different vendors now started coming up, and depends on your audience needs. As we discussed in our previous episode, it depends on the audience, like how they like to see your content, how it is uh, AI ready for the future needs as well.
Any of this tool is your personal favorite, which you feel that tech writers can pick up easily?
So when we look at the Read the Docs is also offers some of the free versions. Like if you have an open repository, which is a public repository, you can link that to any of the available frameworks within available. So personally, I used Spinix and MKDocs, where we can spin it up a new version within the Read the Docs, and you can see how the documentation site runs just by setting up a repository and creating a webhook and link to that to the particular Read the Docs portal. And you can see like the moment you add some changes, you can see the bill gets triggered and you can see the final output of it. So that that covers the complete life cycle of how we push the content as a code and it gets published to the end user.
Excellent. All right, Bala. So let's move to the next one. We talk to something about vibe coding. If you can tell us a little bit of what is vibe coding and how do you see, if you can give us an example of where we can see that getting implemented.
Yes, sure. So vibe coding is it's a famous term now. Like we have some form of idea and we ask AI to generate a code for us. So if you have some basic knowledge on how it works, something like a HTML, JavaScript, or something like a Node.js, to see how it works. So AI can help you to build that functionality for you, so that you don't manage all the dependencies and the syntax, how we write a particular functionality and what are the backend systems which we need to manage. So entire thing will be automated, and the code generated by the AI, you can make use of it. So one particular use case for the technical writers would be like if you have some needs within your process, and if you want to simplify it, you can create a tool based on your idea. Say something like you need to automate some of the process, and you need a lot of help from the engineering team because their requirements might be vague, or sometimes they don't have the bandwidth to or the budget to do that. So with the help of vibe coding, you can try it out on your own, because you have the clear requirements, like what is your input and what your outputs are and how you want the output to be. So depending on that, you can start creating a tool and deploy in some of the locally available web apps. Something like you can have a local server running on your system to try it out and see how that works. So you can start something a simple web app, like to just track your time every day, or what kind of task you do each and every day, to just keep track of it. So you can build that tool using AI. So the reason why I'm telling for the technical writers is, when we start defining the requirements, it's not like a single prompt you write to any of the existing LLM and ask to write the complete code. You may have a lot of iterations. Like you may need to prompt either 10 or 15 times to fine tune it, or sometimes the output may not be in a way where it is accepted from. So you try to fine tune where exactly you need the change, and you do the complete process right from the scratch, like how your screen should look like, and what are the fields it can have, and if I give these inputs, how it should process and render the output. So meanwhile, you try to see what are the other things we have in between. Say, if you start with a simple example, you may try to understand what are the things we have in the standard HTML form, and when we submit, what happens, or what are my backend code, and how the output is rendered. So each and every stage, you learn something, and it helps us to understand where the AI makes it right, and where the human inputs are required to make the AI to work in a perfect way, so that we expect the output of AI is same as we generate from our own experience as well. So that would help to understand, to start the vibe coding something like you build up a tool by yourself. So it gives you the confidence of to define the requirements well to the AI. It helps you to write a proper prompt, so that you give a clear context, like what is required and what you want the AI tool to work on. So that would elaborate a lot of different ideas to it. So you can start something like a simple web app, and then start adding features on top of it. So that would help you to see where it started in version 1 and how it got improved in version 2. And in between, what are the human gaps or the human touch points we have with the AI, and how it evolves, it fits into your documentation system. So if you're building a tool which is helpful for your documentation process, something like generate a release note blurb from the given ticket details, either from Jira or some of the background details you collected from Slack or any other SME inputs. So it helps to build that, and it helps in the formatting as well. So if you have a other different content management system, and if you have the content ready, it try to give the content in a well formatted way, rather than you don't spend a lot of time in building that particular form. So you can build a tool which is required, which simplifies your work. And in that process, you learn a lot of things like how you interact with AI, and it gives a confidence on how to write proper prompts as well. And you learn the entire um, the software development process in between. Like it's a prototype model, so we don't have the complete experience of what is deployed in the production, but you tend to relate what is happening while building a software. So that gives a broader idea of to work with. So earlier we don't have the access to start coding. You need to go through the syntax and understand what are the different patterns we need to write while building a software, and you need to go through the front end and back end and a lot of steps to go through just to write a simple web application, something like a to-do list. So with the advancements now, you can try to use the same tool to see what is a skill in an AI, and how and see the comparison between the first iteration would be like a simple web app, and how the AI develops it by using a skill on top of it, what you have done. So that gives a lot of different terminologies we use in AI that will help you to learn in the process.
Correct. So I did a bit of a digging on this, and I was just trying to see. So, for example, we are Blue Dots Consultancy Services. We are into technical writing training and human resource stuffing. So let's
Okay.
say tomorrow I go to the AI and I say, you uh, build me an app or build me a website wherein candidates can come, they can upload their resumes, they can apply for the jobs and everything. It will build up something for me. And later on, I can go and see, for example, if I want to make it mobile responsiveness or third party cert in the applications and all that stuff. So I think that is something for us to try it out also and see vibe coding, kind of a thing
Yes.
for that matter. All
Because
right.
now thing
Yeah.
is now it's easily we can generate it, and we'll get to know a lot of stuff while building something like that. So as you said, when you're building for a website, you also understand like for optimizing it for a mobile, there are a lot of terminologies you need to discover it. It's like a selective learning when you build the process, and you
Hmm.
learn a lot by doing this, rather than you enroll up something specific on the AI system to learn about the basics and then try to use it. So it's like you can turn it on, and the
Hmm.
requirements are from your side. It's not like you
Correct.
are defining some a pseudo use case or for some other organization. You have your requirements and you know the output for what is the expected output, and you fine tune the AI to do that.
Okay. Yes. Yes. That's it. Just talking about AI. So, from a technical writer's perspective, what opportunities does Claude Code, specifically, I'm talking about Claude Code, create that didn't exist, let's say, a couple of years back?
So Claude Code now it has the complete access within your file systems. So earlier, even when the AI chat when it started, we tried to interact using prompts, and then it tried to give us a list of coding files, and we try to manually do that in our Visual Studio Code or some of the editors to run it manually to see whether the given code is working within our systems or not. So the Claude Code, we give access to the file systems of our systems. So it builds that the entire files required to run the code within our system. So it creates all the basic files, basic scaffolding of how we have a lot of different files within the project, and what are its dependencies, and it try to download all the jar files required for running for the particular software. And it also helps you to troubleshoot. So if some output is not rendered, and if you ask the Clarko to resolve it, it will be a handful of that particular issue, and it helps to solve that issue for you. So you don't need to go through a Stack Overflow or cut on copy paste or error code. So it analyzes the code within your system and it gives the solution to you. So in that way, it will be a helpful for you to completely build the solution from scratch, and you will be there to just guide you like how the inputs may vary and how your outputs are expected to do so. So
Excellent.
that would completely cover like because if you do that manually, like if I just add one of the fields on the input, I need to know the entire ecosystem, like where the data goes after I submit the form, and how the data gets stored in the database, and how it renders when a user or other viewer process it. So all this internal cycles, it analyzes the existing and then it adds the feature on top of it. So on top of it, it also tests the solution and gives the working model for us. So that is a great power now, rather than we averse ourselves like we cannot build a solution by ourselves. So that's the advancement. Like we have the complete functionality of all the systems in one particular folder, and we try to see how that looks in.
Excellent. Well, we are we in the first episode and episode we have spoken a lot on the technical stuff about it and all that. A lot of technical writers, Bala, today, from your side, and I'm not talking about the primary skill set, but that is always going to be there. What are the lateral skills that you think a tech writer needs to develop in this era?
So one particular skill would be you need to talk in front of the crowd. So that is a public speaking as a necessary, where you need to find the areas where AI cannot do the stuff for you, because it cannot explain or address the crowd to the entire audience, where it need a human interaction to explain, to understand what are their needs are and how you deliver that to you. So it is one of the important skill where in future it may be like the documents might be it might be written by the AI depending on your requirements, and there'd be someone to show that to the entire team to develop or to educate that particular product to the audience, whether maybe a developers or the end user. So that's where the role comes in. So you may not wonder like there may be cases where technical writers they move to different roles such as product managers and the developer relations team as well, where you need to constantly interact with the outside audience, not within the organization, but outside audience to take the solutions and the product, the services to the outside world, where you'll be in the right position now because you know the product, you have a hands-on experience on it, how it works, and you also have the skill to simplify for the end audience because you analyze the audience. Because if there are developers, they know all the basics of it, and you can just tell them or guide them what exactly need to be done. And if they are a generic users, you try to simplify your technical stuff to in a simplified manner. So you'll be the person to do that stuff, and you should also develop the skills of public speaking so that it help you in a long run where you may get a lot of chance to explain your products to the end audience, and it is also helpful across different mediums as well. Like you can conduct something like podcast like this, and you can also explain the solutions within the web. So that would be help you to help other users to understand your product, not only through the documents, and also it will be helpful for running the videos as well. So now we in the latest research we saw that videos that has a human face and who explain that at a real time that would help a lot of audience to engage with the video rather than it's an AI generated or the video which has a AI voice into it. So for doing such activities or to open up those things, you should be develop these skills because that's not one thing like you can develop overnight. It requires a lot of practice and a lot of preparation. You need to address a different crowd, and you should not get a lot of nervousness and a lot of different things inside. So one particular skill would be developing public speaking skills, and the other skill would be like you can have a learning list for you. So it's not about something random learning. I can define like in next 1 year what I would try to learn for my career or as well as to expand my knowledge and create a schedule for that. So rather than we may have a lot of like a lot of tasks to do it either in the work and in the family as well. So that would be if we have a scheduled learning list, like what I'm be learning at the end of 1 year, and if you segment that into bits and pieces of it, and if you do that in a regularized manner, at the end of the year, we'll be completing 1 or 2 courses per year, and that would add up a lot of skill into it. And making that as a public learning, like what you learned, you can expose that to the entire world. Something like writing a blog post on your own or creating a video on what you learned. So that would reinforce your learning as well. And it will also create a lot of exposure to your, the end world, like what you learned and what are you passionate about. So that would help you to reach at a greater heights rather than we just consume the content and uh, do all the instructions within us. So that would be helpful for the technical writers to think in this way as well. And the other way, the other learning would be like finding the gaps. Like as we said, like if you try to build it, you can see where the AI goes wrong and where the human knowledge is still critical to do that because it cannot decide a lot of the other expectants in the first run. So where it requires that knowledge. So to do that, you need to work with the AI, build or generate a lot of stuff within the AI and understand where it lacks and where the human inputs are necessary. So these are some of the skills which may require in future because it gets automated, everything gets automated, and you can see that in the real market scenarios, like how it goes in the long run.
Right. So, we also Blue Dots, like I personally am now getting involved in a lot of voiceover work where I can render my voice so to certain things. So when I was talking to one of the clients, he said that the voice that they have is AI generated.
Yeah.
And that is not sounding so. A lot of times, what is happening, the customer says yes, and the customer gets to hear this, and the customer says, no, I can't do that because the customer goes with this to the market. And we all have got AI generated phone calls also. And
It's
it does not allow you to talk, first of all. So, and then the other stuff is that, so he said, we want a human kind of a voice to, so that's something that definitely for a technical writer to work on. And you got to identify which are the areas that you can still, you can do a better job than AI. I'm sure there is, um, you know, because the fact of the matter is you mentioned a list of which we should create for another year or so, the learning list I'm talking about. And, today when a tech writer receives a call from a certain organization and they say, do you know scripting? They get very, worried about it because they're like, what are they talking about? I think that's what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of the word technical in technical writing was always important, but now it has quadruple. It has become more. And I'm not trying to say that, because I keep reading in a lot of forums about it, and I'm all for it. But at the same point of a time has come again to understand that there are a lot of learnings that we will have to pick up. It was always there, but I think suddenly AI has woken a lot of people who were sleeping and who were like, let's chalta hai attitude kind of a thing in life. Suddenly it has pushed a lot of people and they said, what's happening?
it's
Kind of a thing. So a list of learning definitely is something that we should do. Be more technical, public forum, this thing and all. You should be your own advocate, I guess, That's what you're trying to tell, kind of a thing for that matter. And well, Bala, I just to sum it up, this thing for that matter, I have one question, and I believe if you had started your career, let's say when you started your career and put it in the present context,
Okay.
and there's so much of hullabaloo about AI, would you have stick to technical writing? Would you have decided to become a technical writer if you had known that there is something going on that AI will replace tech writers and all that? Would you have still decided to become a tech writer?
No, it's not about only the technical writers or endangered by the AI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even the developers and a lot of the UX designers and
Mm,
automation testers, everyone gets affected. It's not
yeah,
about the technical writers.
technical writers. Yeah.
It's a common saying like you just write and you don't do that like a lot of heavy lifting for that. But writing, yes, it's easy. Like we can give a prompt, AI can write it, but it should be relevant to the audience, and it should ensure like the developer or the audience get that the exact need from the documents. Like when the developer is frustrated and they don't need they need a solution to overcome that particular problem. So they're not looking for the AI generated answers. So that's the human touch, like someone to understand or someone who think on their perspective. Like they should also follow the same steps as I followed, and they may already encountered these problems. And if they give those solution to us, then it will be helpful to go through on top of. So that way, it will be like AI is with the advancements, we cannot completely ignore like the way how it started 2 years ago and where it ended up here. So we cannot completely ignore. We try to blend with it, how we can augment that in our existing workflow. And coming to your question, I just started as a software developer, and
Mm,
then after 3 years, I moved into technical writing. So I understand that my core skills are in explaining the things, understanding the technical things, and explaining or simplifying the concepts to the end users. I can filter out most of the technical jargons and try to simplify that to the end user. So finding that specific skill, I voluntarily moved from from the software development to the technical writing, and then find what are the different areas I can explore on the technical writing stuff. So we don't think on a long run, and we can say just we can connect the dots by backside, like how it went. And there were some occurrences where for the API documentation and other stuff, they need some skill set like where you should be a software developer and also you should explain the things to the end user. So that helps me to understand what is the API documentation is, because I tested the APIs. I run that, I send the request and get the response for a typical developer who want to try the API, and then try to get what are their pain points and try to address that within the engineering team as well, and try to simplify that for the end user. So that would um, help me. I use those software development skills, and in the same way, I try to interact with the other teams as well, because since I was into software development, I interacted with the other team members, what are their exact roles are. So we get to know the right questions to them. Like if I just interact with the SME or a product manager, I like to put up a proper questions to them to get the content, rather than I ask them to explain or ask them to explain the complete feature too. So that helps a lot of interview time with them, and also they have a mutual respect, like we understand the product and we are asking the right questions to them. That's the clarifying thing, rather than we don't put our effort and then ask the some of the questions which they don't want to help or they don't have the bandwidth to do so. So that helped me to gauge it, and it's a long run. We need to see like what our decision are and what we took at the last time. We don't want to. I don't want to regret it,
mm.
but AI is coming. Yeah, yeah. We need to see how it just blends with that and how effectively we use them. So that's a new challenge, I would say.
Yeah,
Not the
absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Bala. Thank you so much for giving me your time. And with these two episodes that we did it, we learned a lot of things. I'll be back with you probably in a couple of months where we'll discuss. We'll see how AI, what are the new things. From my part, every 5 years I see something new happening. I I've always seen then it becomes stable after some time. So all I am trying to tell people is that don't be scared. I know a lot of people have never want to say, people losing jobs or people getting jobs. It's very disheartening. I know the pains that people have gone through it and all that sort of a thing. But also, this is probably a time for us to actually think about pick up new learnings, work on our skill set for that matter. So it will be great to talk to you, Bala. And for our audience, if you want to reach out to Blue Dots Consultancy Services, please do so. If you want me to host a podcast, if you want a human resource for your company, if you want training and all that sort of a thing, please reach us on training@bluedotsconsultancy.com or visit our website. I'll share the coordinates. Once again, thank you, Vala, for your time. And
Thank
I hope to see you in more podcasts in the near future. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.